Hi everyone, it's Maria and welcome to my channel. So I've been working most of my short-lived career as a marine scientist within a research group that is part of or associated with the university. That's why I'm super excited for today's video. I talked with two people, Tyler Sims and May Doricott, who have experience working in the realm of marine science and marine conservation with other types of institutions that are not universities. May and Tyler work for the Marine Diaries, which is an ocean science and conservation nonprofit organization. I've been aware of their work for a while, long before we even talked or communicated about a potential collaboration, and I think they do amazing work, and they do just really good. They're really good at what they do, and I definitely recommend you check them out. I will leave all their socials and their website down in the description box below, so be sure to check it out. They're great. So now let's hear about the stories of these two inspiring people. Take it away, May and Tyler. Let us know who you are.
Hello, my name is May Doricott, and I've been at the Marine Diaries for around 3 years now. I have a background in marine biology, which I did at Plymouth University, and I loved the whole concept of marine biology, but I was terrible at stats and data. So I quickly realized that the whole scientific side of things wasn't necessarily for me as a researcher, but I really enjoyed the whole storytelling aspect of marine biology. So I did a master's in science communication, trying to bridge the gap between science and public knowledge, which I now know is a lot more complicated than it sounds on the tin, which is really cool. And for my actual full-time day job, I work in filmmaking in Bristol, working on documentaries, which was always the dream job, and it's great. And at the Marine Diaries, I was working on the Plastic Non-Fantastic series, which is an issue that's close to my heart. So that's me.
My name is Tyler Sims. I've been with Marine Diaries for almost a year now. I came on as a researcher for the Ecosystems project, which has just started releasing. We released coral reefs this month. I worked on the polar oceans ecosystem. My background is kind of a smattering of biology. I grew up in Alberta, Canada, so there's no oceans within 1,500 kilometers, something like that. But I moved out to Vancouver Island, where I am now, and finished a degree in marine biology. And currently I am working part-time as a sturgeon culturist, as well as working for the federal government doing salmon monitoring.
Thank you. This is actually great because we have people working, both ocean lovers and advocates, working in kind of the same thing, but in very different things at the same time. Can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up deciding to study marine biology or getting involved with working with the ocean?
I was very lucky in the fact that I knew from a young age that I wanted to be involved in the sea. My dad is a diving instructor, so I got into scuba diving from a young age, and I just loved being in the water. And I didn't know what I could do, but I just knew it was something to do with the sea. And I remember my teacher in high school being like, oh, there's a thing called a marine biologist. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll give that a go then, maybe. So it was always kind of something I headed towards. And I loved doing the degree in marine biology. But like I said, when I was introducing myself, I kind of figured out quite quickly that the whole research aspect, although I found very interesting, wasn't necessarily within my own skill set. And I just loved talking about it. So the whole science communication side of thing, I think, is really where my personal skills lie. And I love being able to collaborate with people like Tyler, who are actually doing science and being like, tell me more about it. Let's spread the word about your part of what you're doing for the oceans. So that's how I got into it.
My path, I guess, was a lot less direct. I didn't really start with anything biology related aside from high school until I was 25. And it started with an interest in microbiology, and then realizing that I didn't really want to be behind a microscope for an entire career. A little bit of microscope work is fine. So then I was looking at just sort of resource management and fisheries and things like that. And I've always really liked the ocean, just from family vacations. And I think my favorite documentary series ever is The Blue Planet and Blue Planet 2. So inspiring and amazing. But I finally moved out to Vancouver Island, where I was a lot closer to the ocean than I was before. And it's just felt like this is where I was meant to be. And just as I've learned more and gained more experience, I've dabbled in a lot of sort of different science careers, for a little bit here and a little bit here while I was going through school. And it's just been a really fun journey to learn all of this new stuff and gain a better appreciation for it.
So both of you talked like about getting involved in different projects. How did you get involved? Like, did you actively talk to people? Did you look for positions online? Was it someone who suggested you? How did you find these other opportunities?
I think generally, if you have a passion for the ocean, but you don't know quite what you could bring to it, is just to explore those different options as much as you possibly can. With a diving background, I did like a sea search course where you learn how to ID marine animals as like a citizen scientist. And that was a nice introduction to just kind of building the foundations of how do you actually look at marine animals. But then when I went to university, I volunteered at my local aquarium. So I could kind of see like there was the husbandry side of things, and there was the front of house, just like talking to people about the animals itself. So that gave me a little bit more experience. And I was like, oh, I'm quite good at talking to people about animals. This might be something worthwhile. Before uni, I did like a couple of marine conservation internships, which I think is really useful. If you're not sure whether, you're a field work kind of person, going on those internships where you can kind of help out an NGO or an organization who are doing coral reef restoration or mangroves, anything like that, you kind of get an idea of what the lifestyle would be like to be doing that every day. And I think that's important when you actually think about how are you going to get involved in this, is what is the other side of the lifestyle for you? Some research scientists spend their whole times in a lab. Is that the kind of thing you want to do? And the only way you can see if you like it is to try it. So I think just kind of searching online for different opportunities, volunteering, I think is such an important way to start, because you have you can just dibble dabble in things. And I think that's a good way to start. I
think I'm probably going to tread a lot of the same ground that May did. I think the biggest thing is just immerse yourself in as many experiences as you can. Volunteering is definitely one of the largest of those. There's just so many different things that you can do, but I would say as well, just getting involved in the types of things that you're interested in. So if it is scuba diving that you want to do, then go out and do it as much as you can. Find groups to do it with. For me, I've been in school for a while, and all of my professors, they are a great resource for finding other ways to get into things. They have resources, they have people they know. I found that science as a career, I'm sure whether it's biology or anything else in STEM, the people you know are the best resource that you have. So creating those networks, finding other people, talking with them, figuring out how they got where they are all just enormous resources that allow you to get where you want to get to. So I think that's something to keep in mind. It's a lot of the people that you know, and creating those connections. You might just get something that leads to a job, or you might just make a good friend. But either way, it's pretty valuable.
If you had to say, okay, look for people and talk to many people as you can, and go into this with something, what would your answer be?
No expectations, I think. Obviously aim high and have an idea of what would give you fulfillment, but always be ready to know and be flexible, I guess, in what it actually entails. It's a lot of hard work, I think, doing what you love, and to be passionate and to keep those flames fueled as you go through, because I think it's quite a competitive industry at the moment, because it has this kind of sexy vibe to it, doesn't it? Like being an ocean scientist, a marine biologist, diving in the sea every day, but it's not really that.
No.
But if it is, it's a lot of hard work, and it's tiring, and it's long hours. So just remember that it will be a lot of hard work, but if you genuinely love it will give you fulfillment.
Great answer. Tyler?
I would say go into it at your own pace. And like with a lot of things, don't compare where you are to where someone else is. Like I said, I got into it pretty late in my life. I didn't get into it right out of high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'm here now. And I think that's what matters. Even if it does take you a little while, if you don't know exactly where your path is going to lead, take every advantage and every opportunity that you can. And whether it's you find out that you don't like doing that sort of thing or that you love doing that sort of thing, I think it's valuable either way, because then you can use that to mold the decisions you make in the future, and you're going to end up somewhere that you really love being. But with science, it's so diverse. I mean, what is marine biology? What is biology? There's so many different avenues that you can take. And so if you can experience as many of those avenues as possible, I think that's really, really valuable.
Nate, you work with documentary filmmaking. I'm sure many people are interested in knowing how you got into that. What exactly do you do in this field, and how did you get there?
I'm a researcher, which is like bottom rung of the industry, really, after a runner making teas and coffees. But I still make teas and coffees just because I like making teas and coffees for people. But I'm a researcher, and definitely my background in marine biology and scientific communication has helped get to this point, but it's not the only way to get there. And I basically look for stories to film for a natural history documentary. So that could be, your typical turtles laying on a beach, and filming that whole sequence. But what goes into that? Contacting a scientist, possibly, asking them what times of the seasons does this happen. So really kind of nailing down events, what time of weather, like the weather, the equipment, the camera operators, all kind of pulling that together. And then my favorite part is actually creating the story and integrating all those little science nuggets that we love into a sequence which makes you fall in love with an animal that you might never have met before. And why is this animal important in the whole grand scheme of planet Earth? So I love the job. It's very fulfilling. It's hard, but it's good. And I got into it because of my diving background, actually, as well as my academic backgrounds. But having the skills in diving is definitely a useful tool for going on shoots and knowing what you actually need to film certain things happening underwater. And to be fair, it was knowing someone within the industry that definitely helped me get a foot in, who could vouch for me and my skills. So definitely knowing people and networking, I would say, is a key thing when you're looking into different options of what you'd like to pursue. So yeah, I was very lucky to know someone who was like, this girl's a good one, maybe give her a go. And
cool.
that's how I got in.
That's pretty much the dream job for many people, I am sure.
For me at the moment, it's more of like a tool to do what I like, which is share ocean stories. Filmmaking is just one medium to do that through. And, you know, with the Marine Diaries, we've got videos, we've got blogs, maybe doing more podcasty stuff, because everyone engages with information differently. And I think that's always something to bear in mind when you're looking how to tell stories.
Tyler, so you said you worked also in a bunch of different fields, like you put your feet into fisheries and you said you work for the government now. What do you do for government?
I first made my way into freshwater fisheries when I lived in Alberta in Canada. So that was kind of the first foray into it that I had, and I just found it so interesting. You know, it was work that was, you know, done for a reason, and there was, you know, you had to give this information to your managers, the biologists, who had to make decisions about how are we going to manage these populations. So just this past summer is when I started with the federal government, and we're doing a salmon assessment on the west coast of Canada, North America, really. The Pacific salmon are a very, very important resource. And so a lot of the populations for these fish have been dwindling. And so it makes it even more important to establish how many are coming back to the rivers to spawn, how many are making it back out afterwards. It's all just a very complicated system and very difficult to track. So most of what I do is either monitoring the commercial take and then using data to from that, as well as doing tags of the fish as they're coming up. And you either track where the fish are going, so where they're going to be spawning, or how many fish are being caught, because the commercial fisheries for these fish are, you know, important parts of the economy, but it's also just important to understand how many fish are out there. The second part is just looking at how many fish make it past the fishermen. And so that's how many fish are actually going to be able to spawn. We're still figuring out where exactly these salmon spawn. There's certain areas that are blocked off at times, or certain areas that aren't getting as much water as they have historically. The river that I worked on this past summer, it's called the Taku River. And there was a large landslide that blocked off the river. So that's going to impact a lot of fish this year who are going upriver and looking for areas to spawn. They're not going to necessarily be able to get to where they need to get to. So it's just an important job to track where these fish are going, where they can get, and what we can do to make that easier for them. The data that we gather then goes on to either other areas of the government who work on rehabilitating and rehabbing these areas, or to private groups that are environmental consultants and might do the same thing.
Do you have a particular story that you would like to share, like something that inspired you, or just a funny story, or just something that from your career so far stuck with you and that you would like to share?
So mine is actually more related to sort of the field that May's been talking about. The summer of 2019, I worked as a coastal naturalist. So basically a science interpreter. The Canada Parks, an organization called Oceanwise, and the BC Ferries all partner together, and every summer these coastal naturalists are aboard the ferries, and we write our own presentations about, you know, part of the natural history of the British Columbia coast, and we sit up on the upper deck and we give these presentations to whoever is in the area. And so I'd been working this job for about 2.5 months. It was nearing the end of the summer, and a lot of times on the ferry route, you see whales. A lot of times they're quite far away, so it's kind of hard to ID. Or it's just like a quick little glimpse. If you're not there right then it's over, and that's all you get to see. But one day near the end of the summer, we saw about, I want to say it was 3 humpback whales that all kind of were doing their own thing, and they stuck around for quite some time. And the ferry had to stop. It's part of the regulations that, they got to stop and assess the situation, make sure that the whales are far enough away, we're not going to impede them, all those kinds of things. But I saw the whales. Everyone was super interested in the whales. Rather than do my regular presentation that I had scripted and had all these props for, I brought all my equipment over to the side, set up my speakers, got my mic on, and even though I don't necessarily have an expertise in whales, throughout the summer talking to other coastal naturalists and doing some reading, on the downtime, there's a few things that I learned. And so I was able to just do an impromptu presentation about these whales as they were, spy hopping and doing tail flops and putting their flukes up in the air and, waving hello to everyone. And it was just so amazing and fun to see all of that, but then also having everyone come to look to you for information. Why are they doing this? How big do they get? Do they live here all year round? It was just so inspiring to see that keen interest that people have. It's whether they were 5 years old or whether they were 50 years old. Both people came to me with the same just excitement and amazement at what was happening, and it really just gave me the willies. Just so great to experience something like that.
May, do you have a story for us?
I do have a story. It's about humpback whales as well. I was trying to think of another one, but I was like, no, we'll keep the same. Let's keep the same species. And I guess this is a kind of different experience because sometimes you have these moments which do really ignite your fire again. And this was kind of a solo experience in a way. We were filming humpback whales in Colombia at this place called Isla Gorgona, which used to be like Colombia's Alcatraz. And it used to be like one of these really horrible prisons where loads of people died from snake bites. And they had to close the prison down, and now it's like this abandoned Jurassic Park kind of thing. But loads of humpback whales come there to breed because the waters are really quiet. And the science that we actually were looking at was the fact that they found that humpback whale song peaks in the middle of the night. So we all know of the beautiful songs that humpback whales do, but scientists have recorded that between midnight and 1 a.m. the song increases, there's more diversity in the song, and there's just a higher voltage of sound being put out. So we were like, why is this happening? And we went there to film at night. And trying to spot whales in the day is hard enough, but then trying to film them underwater at night was another challenge. So we were looking at different lights, and we were on this dive. I was a safety diver behind the camera operator, and we were looking at these infrared lights underwater. So you had to turn off all your white light. And so it was pitch black, basically, and only the camera operator could see what he was pointing at. Oh. But everything was lit up by bioluminescence at this point. So the bubbles that the divers were chucking out were just glowing avatar bubbles, and fin kicks and silhouettes of divers all through bioluminescence. And then a pod of humpback whales came over, but we couldn't see them, but you could hear them. And it was probably one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, not being able to actually see anything, but being pitch black, see bioluminescence, and then feel the song going through your body was one of those moments that I'll never forget. And it's those kind of things where you're just I just want to share this with everyone. Everyone should have an experience like this. And I think the underwater world is such a magical place because it is so surreal, and those experiences are so heightened underwater. So that's a special moment for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I would love to experience something like that. I've never dived at night, so please tell me where people can find you.
Definitely check out the Marine Diaries. Like I said, the ecosystem project is being released all throughout this year. So every month we're focusing on a different ecosystem. So definitely check out the Marine Diaries website and all of the associated social media accounts for that.
Again, the Marine Diaries, if you just want to follow stories of the oceans and learn a bit more about different ecosystems, definitely check out the ecosystem project that Tyler was talking about. I myself am on Instagram at MayKLD.
That is it. Thank you very much for being here, and it was great having you here on the channel.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun to do. It's really nice to meet you and be able to talk about some of this stuff, and can't wait to see the video.
This was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check all the links down below for the Marine Diaries and these two lovely people. It was really lovely to chat with these two incredible and inspiring people. I hope you also enjoyed learning about what they do and how they got there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you to all my Patreons for supporting this channel, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.